Our next guest on the Any Given Runday podcast is an ex-elite soldier turned coach and a dad of four who recently came third in the Norn Iron 100, has represented Ireland in the BYU World Satellite Championships, as well as coming sixth in the All-Ireland Backyard Ultra last August with an incredible 34 hours and 230 kilometers plus of running. Sammy Lupari, welcome to this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. How are you getting on?
Not too bad. Good. Mouthful for you there.
As usual.
Say Norn Iron again.
No. See, that's what I tried not to say. So I looked at Norn Iron was what I meant to say, right? And I was like,
yeah.
What's the play, the point on that?
Sammy, say it. Say it, Sammy.
Norn Iron.
Norn Iron.
I can't say it without adding in the accent. I think it's an absolute brilliant name.
You say anything.
It is so good. What a name for an event to be held up the north. Sammy, you are so welcome to the podcast. As Shauna said, quite an impressive amount of accolades. A long time running as well. So there's a lot of stuff there. But people always get a fright when we list off the accolades. And they're like, can you never bring on people who are just normal? So Sammy, right now you don't sound normal.
Oh, I'm completely normal.
Tell us how normal Sammy got into sport, if you don't mind.
Really, through school, I played everything. I was the type of child that wasn't really good in class, so I volunteered for every sport. I played cricket, rugby, football, anything just to get out of class, to get away. That kind of followed me through. And then whenever I left school, rugby was my main sport. In school, basketball. And then once I left school, rugby was my main sport then.
When you look at the likes of team sports, and we talk about this a lot, it's actually been a theme we've covered quite a lot, is people who transition from foundational sports as a kid. And your Instagram handle is Dad's Ready for Anything. Where did that name come from? And I'll ask that first because of a follow-on question.
So like the Dad's Ready for Anything, the Ready for Anything is actually my old unit that I was in the army. Motto is Ready for Anything, for prepared for everything. So then I just obviously put the dads, and obviously it's something that means something to me, and that's where it come from. And then I think somebody else had it, so I had to put 365 in the end of
it. But when you look back, and obviously I asked this with the influence, I'm going somewhere with it. When you look back at your sporting career and through childhood, and we say career, it's that time from young age, foundational sport. How important is sport in the life of a child? One, looking at yours now, obviously, look, school isn't for everyone, and it's not, and particularly for males. I think to certain ages and maturity levels, it's a difficult place to keep focused, to keep everything. Whereas sport, a lot of people will thrive, and it's a common theme. Even when I was in school, my head was always looking at what sport could I play, as opposed to I don't really want to do French. But how important are these sporting teams and a variety of teams for kids? How important were they for you, for obviously the foundations for your career, ready for anything all the time, and how influential is sport for kids?
So coming back to the first one, the fact that I come off rugby into whenever I first joined the army, I hit the ground running and was like one of the fittest in the platoon, where everybody else had to kind of catch up. The rugby we played, obviously at that time there was no strength and conditioning. Our strength and conditioning was our mate on our back of our shoulders running up and down the hill on a wet Thursday night. There was no gym, but it definitely stood me in good stead then whenever I joined the army. And then leading on, now that I have kids, like my kids, I have four obviously, and all different age groups. Like my eldest is bookworm, loves books, loves tech, but he's still like, he goes out and he plays football, so up in his local team. With the fact that they have four, it's hard to do everything, but they do running, football, and then basketball is like the three sports. So you imagine what the running's like in my house. I'm surprised I have time to do anything. But it's not too bad because they kind of fall in and around the same time. The wife, to be fair, takes the brunt of the running, the taxi driving for that. And I do my best to turn up. But like as far as like team sports and that, it just, even just being in and having somebody to push you, or like you want to be with your friends, and like having somebody to push and that wee bit of competitiveness, I think it doesn't go a long way, because if you're not in that, in the competitive side of things, you're not pushing for anything in my eyes. And like definitely there's one thing, like my kids see me training all the time, and bar really the first one, the three that come behind are constantly torturing me, looking to go running. So my son literally just took his first communion, and his communion money went in a pair of Hoka trainers because he sees me wearing them. We had a pair of Hoka trainers bought for him for his birthday. So like it's very influential. But you can see it translate to him whenever he's out on the football pitch, whenever all the kids are racked, and he's still running up and down the pitch because he just keeps going. He's just pulled that wee engine, jumping on top of me at like 5 o'clock on a bank holiday Monday morning to go running.
How good is it to feed off that energy as a dad of 4? So it's dad's ready for everything, mum does everything.
I take them out and tire them out for her first.
You tire them out. Mum does everything. So big credit. And it's always, of all the guests we've had, the other half, it's a team. And when one is thriving in one, it takes a team to do this, as well as with a family of 4. But how energetic do you feel? As well as, I suppose, we always say seeing is believing, and when you can see, you can be. So when the 5 o'clock on the Monday morning comes, how important is it for you to keep showing up so that they still have, because let's be honest, of all our dads, my dad is my role model, Sean says, and that is the hero you have in your life at that time. So how does that make you feel when 5 o'clock Monday morning comes on a bank holiday?
I absolutely love it. And the only one I struggled with was last Monday after that 100-mile race. But I'm more than happy to get up. But like that Saturday morning, Sunday morning, whatever it is, and he comes in, and I'm pretty easy to get out of bed at that point. Like the fact that he wants to go out running is class, and it's just something that me and that, like he's 8 now, like that's all the age of him, and we go out for a wee bit of a run, and he stops because obviously he sees me snacking whenever I'm eating, and then he has to get his sweeties. Push on, but it's good, and like obviously the next ones are coming up and they're a wee bit younger, but definitely like they'll be with us in I would say the coming years without a doubt.
I'm still motivated. If Sean wants to go for a run, I have to know if there's sweets involved. Else I'm not going. Old habits die hard, Sammy. But it is great to be involved and to have, I suppose, kids who are in football or are taking the look at running. When you look at then the start of your military career, then we look at some of the events you do in terms of mental toughness. What brought you towards the military style of a career? And then from there, what did you learn about yourself? Because I know from mine, in the first couple of months of training, you learn a hell of a lot about yourself, about what you thought about yourself, and what actually you are is one thing that helps. What was it like for you?
Well, so I was influenced. My granddad passed away whenever I was quite young, and at the time he was in the RAF. But I just seen a black and white picture of him standing in his military uniform, and I was like always just like had it in my head that I was going to the army from I was no age. And then I was like growing up, like 16, my mum and dad point blank refused to sign the paperwork. And to be fair, at that age, you don't really understand anyway what you're signing for. But the day after my 18th birthday, then I went online because I was obviously old enough to sign up and signed up. And then next thing I got like my join instructions through the post. And my mum opened them thinking I got a court summons for something because it was a bit of a handful around the time. It turned out it was the join instructions for the army. But again, whenever I joined the army, I was running about, I wouldn't say the wrong crowd because I was involved in it, but like we live in quite a small town, and it was a lot of fighting. Like every weekend you went out, you were drinking, you were fighting, you were drinking, you were fighting. And at that time I kind of thought I had a wee bit of a name for myself for being a wee bit of a hard boy and like somebody that could handle themselves. But then you get in the army and have like a 6'5" absolute macho man chewing the light at 3 o'clock in the morning. You feel a bit this big, so you get put in your place now at the start of it.
It's definitely one for taking the ego off a lot of people and instills a lot of discipline. And one thing that I loved about it was when people talk about motivation leaves very quickly, very quickly once you join. And then it does become the learned discipline. And that's one thing I'm always grateful for. My career in the Defence Forces was that learned discipline. Now I've moved into the flying side, but in that 2 years of training element, it always stands to me. You went on from that into obviously ready for anything, which is a step further in your career. What brought you towards that?
So, like as I say, whenever I joined, I didn't really know much about it, and I don't know what it's like down your end. But whenever you go to the careers office in ours, you're kind of whoever your recruiter is, you end up joining that regiment. So I ended up being an Irish Guard. So you know the lads in the red coats and the big hats down outside Buckingham Palace. And like obviously being who I was and I just wanted to be soldiering. But But luckily, they had ties with the parachute regiment. So then I was fit to go on and do P Company, and I went to the parachute regiment. And then while you were there, then you were fit to see the Pathfinders operating. And like the Pathfinders are in that grey space kind of between like the rest of the army and the special forces. So they were cutting about with big long sideburns and long hair, and they were like, I want to do that. And then, right, what's involved in that there? And then obviously went for that next intake, and then that involved a 6-week selection course, which was
And
good.
selection, for those who don't know, anyone like a selection for a special force is really a weeding out process. Through very little sleep, a lot of intense activity, and trying to see everything: your mental toughness, resolve, physical fitness. How was that 6 weeks for you?
Tough. So the course was set up so like you were really tested. They're completely the first 2 weeks. You were like loads of fast stuff, which I wouldn't be great at. And then we went on to like the hills, and there was a big Bergen, loads of hill map reading. And that bit is really just to tire you out then for whenever you actually get to the soldiering bit. And like all they really wanted to see was you again talking about the discipline, about having the discipline to do the right thing whenever you were tired. And that's exactly what they're looking for. And then once you actually get in is whenever you actually learned your trade. So like really, once I got past the faster stuff, it wasn't too bad in the hills, and then through the soldier and stuff, like I settled in, to be fair, because I was quite comfortable in that kind of environment anyway. But it's one of them, you don't even know if you're passing or failing or what, because you hear nothing until that last index is called, and then you get called into office and you get told where you passed or failed, and you don't know nothing until that point.
It is definitely a race with no finish line anyway, and a bit like some of the ones you've taken on. And I suppose we'll touch on some of that mental resilience that came out afterwards. The transition out of military life and into, obviously, you played team sports, I hated running. And I say that as one of the bigger running podcasts. I hated it. And in the military, I hated it. And it was only probably after the training, one, I had a base level of fitness that was phenomenal. But on that base level of fitness, I did a marathon with Sean, and it was the worst day of my life. I thought I could run anything. I'd been days in this and days in that, and I can keep going with no food, whatever it is. And it was a lesson that I will remember for the rest of my life, that I did not know how to run. I could run, but I did not know how to run. And I didn't understand what endurance really meant in terms of as a sport. So I learned a lot about running afterwards, and that's when my love for it really came in. How did you find the transition out, or did you need something then to keep yourself going after obviously going through all of this stuff?
That's exactly it. So I came out right in the mouth of COVID because my wife was pregnant, and then I didn't get back in, so there was no resettlement or anything like that. And then it was all just kind of up in the air, and then next thing I knew, it was out, and I was like, "Oh, that's it." So I think all the things were like I was planning for people leaving dues and all that. Like I had none of that. And then it was about 8 months or so after, it's just like it all kind of the pressure then of being out, not having that monthly wage coming in every month and being self-employed and having to get it. It all kind of come on top, and then it was just like one thing after another. It was just pure pressure. And like them whole 8 months I had been out, I had done very little. So like everybody was, well, I'd done a bit over lockdown because there was nothing else to do. And then after that, I was just like work. And then I just stopped looking after myself completely. And it got to come to tuition anyway, where I was like snapping with my wife, snapping with the kids and all, and I went a wee bit too far, one of them. And then I ended up going to therapy for that, and kind of like talking through it before things got worse. And like I would say the wife was probably on the verge of leaving me, to be fair, and like she's openly admitted that there after I talked to her. But then for me, like sitting down and talking to therapists and all, but realizing that like what I have will not be cured was probably the biggest trigger. But there's things that you can do to minimize that. Whereas like I left the Pathfinders, as I say, like the peak of the British Army at a point where we were so busy and it was constant chaos. You were here, I was getting phone calls. I could have been in America 3 days, they over here, Jordan, like just bouncing about the place out into a life of just being at home, and nothing was challenging me. And see, once I kind of started filling that void of being challenged, then like it really, I was like the turning block from the rock bottom on the way back up for me. Like definitely, obviously talking about it to begin with, but turning it round and starting to challenge myself and having something to drive towards was the turning block for me.
Can I ask about therapy? Being Men's Mental Health Month, coming from where you come from in the background and the bravado and everything that comes with it, and you kind of you have to leave home at home when you do the jobs that you do at certain times, you know, mission focus and everything else. It's always with you, but you compartmentalize. What was it like? And I'm asking because some people may be listening, may be thinking of it. What was it like going to your first therapy?
It was probably the worst, to be fair. I think the I knew I had to go because it was starting to build. Like there was friction with my wife and there was frictions with my dad, and like I was just falling apart. And at the same time, obviously, I was over in Northern Ireland. A lot of my colleagues were like England and stuff, and there was a lot of suicides happening. And I was like, I do not want to end up like them. I need to nip it in the bud now. And I knew of a friend that had been to therapy, so like that side of thing for me, it wasn't too bad. But actually, like lifting the phone, it was the day, like I launched a dinner plate across my kitchen table and I could see the fear in my kids' eyes and my wife's eyes. And I walked out the back and I went for a walk. And funny, I bought a packet of cigarettes as well to calm down. And literally sat, I lit a cigarette and was like, right. And I lifted the phone there and I like Googled and it just phoned. I was like, because if I don't change now, I'm going to ruin everything. And that was like, as I say, that was my rock bottom. And it was just, that was probably the hardest bit for me. And then being fit to go to therapy and talk, and then being fit to open up to my wife so she understood what was going on, then made her able to support me through it rather than wondering why is he being an absolute prick and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So like even now, she's been brilliant, to be fair, fantastic, and like she could tell if I'm getting agitated or there's a few pressures, and she'd just be like, "Why don't you just go for a run? I'll sort this," or like, "I'll do this for the kids," and she just sends me off for a run. It's great.
Mums do everything. If she doesn't change the name on Instagram after this.
He's still ready though. Sammy, I love my job as a coach, but to go from like, not that I don't get me kicks out of and stuff like that, but to go from like you said, like a day after you turned 18 and you always wanted to get into the army, and you said parachute regiment, so I only imagine you're jumping out of planes and all the rest, and my imagination goes wild in that. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm not. But to go from that end of it to on the gym floor, yeah, there's kicks out of it and stuff, but those two worlds can't compare. Like you're in a pretty safe space doing that. That transition, how long did it take, and when did you know, okay, the coaching role is for me?
So like the gym that I started working in was my cousin's gym, and he had opened it up, and he had asked me to kind of come for and give him a hand because he was starting to get a bit busier. And I said, he's like, "You're pretty good at this." And to be fair, see, just having like that, like a space of like a community, so to speak. Again, as it reminded you a wee bit of like being in the army and having that, like just being a part of something. Whereas like team sports kind of was out the window for me because they weren't really even started back up by then. But I just thought with the kids and stuff like that, it just brought that community. And then like it's one thing I kind of talked about in therapy because it was pretty close to actually going back into the army because I thought, oh, I can't do this. I'm just going to go in. I was nearly going to throw everything away. And then I was like, no, you know what? Like I come out to be at home with my kids. My eldest son had autism, and I was leaving him, and he was absolutely going. And the wife was picking up the pieces for about a week, and I was like, it's not fair on her. We just had our third kid at that time, and I was like, no, look, I've come at home. I'm not going to have all of that, so I'm just going to have. This is what I want, so I just need to make something work that way. And then I tried to maybe fill that gap a wee bit with the fire brigade, and got all the way through. Got offered a job, went for a medical, and my hearing was gone in my left ear, and got refused the job. But that was a real kick in the stones. So then, obviously, I went more into this kind of like the PT.
And then through the PT, then did you just, is it the simple signed up for a run, fell in love with it kind of thing, or the running come from mental health? Where did the running come into it?
So the running come into. We kind of started getting back like with some of the lads that had got out, and one of our friends he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, so he told us that in October, and it was something that me and him enjoyed doing because he lived down in Wales and he didn't go home that often. So at the weekends we maybe would have cycled out and run the mountains, or went like cycled down and done an outdoor swim and cycled back because obviously my family were living at home, and just sitting down, I got quite good at thinking with my thoughts. And like at that point, that was the first time really outside of actually training because I had to be fit in the army that I'd done it for fun. And I was like, right, I have to do, well, it's not that I have to do, but I just got out running again. And it was more so to clear my head with trying to come to terms that my best friend was going to pass away in 18 months, I think he was given. He only lasted till the April. And like, I would have been out running and chatting to him on the phone or chatting to him on the phone off days. And we'd met up in the February and you got there and then you realised that wee group of 5 friends, like I wasn't the only one that was going through the things with mental health. The other people that got out were doing the same. So then we started talking about that, and then you realise, like, yeah, we're talking about this, and we think this is bad, but this lad's looking at the end of his life and however long, and he's planning that, and he's accepted that. So that was a big turning point for me. Whereas I was kind of like, no, you need to accept this. This is you now, and do something about it, and stop playing the victim. So rather than sitting back and waiting, and then after that, I just kind of was running, and then he always enjoyed hearing about how much clip I was in and that. So I was like, oh, I'm going to do this. And at the same time, I come across Keith Russell's podcast, and he was talking, obviously, backyard ultras, everything. That's the first time I had heard about it. And like he had went through the trauma of losing somebody and like dealing and knew and it was coming up, and that's how he found running. And I would, do you know, you just kind of click with somebody and you can almost feel as if you know what exactly they're going through. Obviously, his was his daughter, so like I can't tell how he was feeling, but I would say it wasn't pleasant. And I just kind of clicked with that and thought, and like he was kind of my inspiration. So I was like, right, I'm going to give one of these backyard ultras a go and just see how far I can go. And that's what led me down that path.
And then you went backyard ultra #1, and you. When I did my first, I went up hills and stuff like that, and I got me 15 hours, and I was pretty happy when Eric pretty much carried me into his car on the way home. You went a lot further in your first one, Sammy.
Yeah, 29 hours. It was quite funny because I was like, there was ended up, there was only 3 of us left. I was like, how have I ended up here? How's this happening?
Sammy, you hit me with something weird before we started the podcast. You said you've never ran a marathon before.
No, I've never run a marathon before, no.
And 29 hours, my maths, I know 24 is 100 miles. That does a lot more than a marathon of 26.2. How did you go from like not running the marathon straight into 29 hours? Obviously, there's a bit of a gap there, but what happened?
Yeah, so like I've always known my strength, even like as I was saying with the hours, like I'm not fast. I know I'm not fast, but I can hold a speed. So like we have 2 different kind of marches and like our testing. You have a 2-miler where you're carrying weight and you've got 18 minutes to complete it. And there's people doing that in 15, 16 minutes, where I was more around the 17 minutes. And then you've got one where it's like 10 miles and it's a wee bit more weight. And then funny, now I was starting to finish in front of these boys that were really quick because I went at the same speed that I did for the 2 mile, for the 10 mile. So I kind of knew that more. So ultra running would be more. I'm 92 kg, 93 kg. So like I'm not light, and it's just kind of what I want, because eating and running, what's not to love? It's like a day out.
You're a man after my own heart, 92 kilo, and I love eating more than I love running. It's exactly. And it is something we're built to last, not for speed, Sammy. And that's what I keep telling Sean. That's what I keep telling him.
I'm 90 kilo now myself, Eric. I kind of take a page out of your leaves at this stage.
You heard it here, Sammy. He's trying to be like me. So when we look at that, what was this the first real big event you took on in terms of you transition? Like, perspective is always amazing when you walk a mile in someone's shoes, like you did with your friend or like you heard with Keith. It puts a hell of a lot of things into perspective, but sometimes you need to see a perspective to understand what you're going through yourself and deal with that. And then, as you correctly said, you had to be fit, but now you want to be fit, and running is a want now. At what point then did you go from enjoying your 5K around your house to, do you know what? I'm just gonna, there's this backyard. I know you said Keith said, and that was a signing up point, but at what point did you realize, you know what, 29 hours, this is me, this is what I love? When did that then become the greater love?
So like after that, I couldn't believe it. And then you were kind of looking around, and we and McGuigan was running, like, and everyone he enters, he nearly wins. And I'm just like that. God only knows how far he can go. Like, it's not even written yet. And I was like, there's levels to this here. And I can't even remember why I come off that. But I know in myself, like after I come off, I was like, I had more in me there. I was kind of looking at the two boys and almost had myself beat because I'm like, oh, them boys, look, they're running a lot better than me. They're doing this a lot better than me. And I pretty much took myself off, like more so than actually having an injury. And I just come in over the time. I was out there and come in over the time. But looking back, I was like, oh, I really wish I had went for that. And it was the seeing them coming on to the All Ireland one whenever I done the 34 hours. I went out in 35 and I had a wee bit of a niggle in my calf. And I was like, oh, you know what? This is enough to stop me, because then I knew I'd qualified that stage for the World Championship. So I was like, no, I'm going to stop now. I was playing it sensible. And I was like, I'll go all out on the World Championship.
In your defense, though, I could see, I've seen Wayne at the back, down in elevation, stuff like that. That man just looks like he's out for a stroll, and he could run for days. So 34 hours straight, your calves at you, you've qualified for the Satellite World Championships a couple of months later, and you probably see Wayne as like, he can go for days. You know what? I've got bigger fish to fry, because when you do the World Satellite Championships and you're representing Ireland during the last 15, so the best went to the All Ireland in August, and you're into the top 6, and you're like, I can go one step further. And now in a couple of months later, the winner of that pretty much goes to Tennessee, the World Championships. It is like the Super Bowl of backyard ultras. You're in it. You have a 200-mile goal. 9:30 the following morning, someone called Ashton messes the whole thing up on you. What happens?
Oh, devastated. Like, we had run all night through the lashing rain. The paths were like a flood. And then the sun was just coming out, and we were like, happy days. We were starting to get our wet kit off, and then next thing we got told they were shutting it was in a national park. They were shutting the national park because the storm was coming at 80 mile an hour wind. No. And there was a lot of dummies thrown out of the pram.
I actually remember we were about to record an episode of the podcast and seeing that and just being absolutely devastated with you guys, because it seemed like you got through the worst of it, and then all of a sudden they're like, no, you're pretty much told that the government, it's
all
gone.
15 in as well. I mean, I think we're one of there was only 13 countries left with all 15 in, and there were strong runners. Like, you had likes of ones that had been to Tennessee and that before, and we're like, this is going to go. And like, I was excited. Do you know how you get excited? This was more than 2 days, and then next thing, the storm. So there's an itch here to get back.
How is coming off something like that? Because, I mean, we talked before on the podcast, from the high of doing a marathon, completing it, to just the depressing lows and stuff afterwards. You don't know what's next. For you to have built so much towards that, and then is it a little bit of not a relief that it was taken from you, but then again, you can get really to challenge yourself to what you could get to. Like, you couldn't have done anything more to get to where you got to at that stage.
No, it definitely wasn't a relief. Like, I was going into that one like with my head going, right, you're going to breaking point in this one, and then to not be fit to do it. Like, as I say, the first one it was a wee bit soft. The second one was soft because of the next one that was coming, and I was kind of like, right, this is your time now to see what you're made of. And then it come to the head, and you're just like, no, just as things seem to be brightening up. But it's one of those things. It was the right call at the end of the day, because I think one of the lads was staying local, and he went out the next day and there was trees down everywhere. So once you see that, they were like, fair enough. But I think if they had went round it and there was nothing on it, I'd have been raging even more. But it's one of them things that happen. I just more got in for the actual team side of life.
Can I ask then about, obviously we'll touch on that again, being part of a team again in terms of ultra, but people are scratching their head at people who run for 4 hours, people who run for 12 hours, people who run for 24. What goes through your head when you are on lap 18, 16? Sean doesn't know what 16 feels like. When you're on lap 16, 17, 18 and beyond, and even into 30 plus 34, what goes through your head in these things? What demons do you fight?
I try and not have very much go through it, to be fair. I just, like, I know for me, like, by the time I actually had done it, my friend had passed away, and I literally, every time I do it, I set my phone screen cover with a picture of him, and just it basically says, like, he suffered so much, but he made such an effort with his friends. Like, his birthday, the week before he died, he was lying in a pub on a sun lounger because the cancer had swollen his belly. He couldn't actually sit up. just to be surrounded by his friends. And it was like, right, if he can go through that, I can do one more loop. And that's exactly what was on my phone. I still have it saved for the next time I go on. It's like, if he can go through that, I can go and do one more loop. And that's exactly the kind of thing. And then I'm just thinking about what I'm going to eat the next time I'm back. After 18 hours, it starts to get a bit difficult. And then I'm like messaging my mum, maybe, right, can you get in the shop and get some of this? I fancy this.
In terms of training, you've no one pretty much better in the country to teach it than Keith Russell. He is coaching you through those things. What does a training week look like when you're building towards running literally for days?
Yeah, well, so I actually got in touch after that all fell through. So I've done it all myself. But to be fair, I had listened to podcasts that he was on, and obviously I followed him. So I was watching what he was doing for going to Tennessee last year, and like some of the sessions he was putting in. And like I was a wee bit like that anyway, because they obviously struggling with PTSD. Or some nights I can't get to sleep, and I would just get up, stick the trainers on, and go up the mountain.
Oh wow!
Go running through the night, and then come back down. Because at least that way, whenever I got up, I had a clear head. Well, I didn't get up, but I had a clear head then for the kids, so I wasn't just completely fatigued or whatever that way. But I'd seen what he was doing, and after that had happened, I was like, right, well, if this is happening again, I am 100% going to be putting myself into the playbook. If I can go out and finish third and do what I've done, I was like, what can I do if I actually learn how to run properly? Because like what he's making me do, I didn't do any of it. I just went out and enjoyed it, really. So I've had him on since October, and I kind of took a break from the backyard ultra for 2025, and then I'm going to come into it again 2026, because obviously the individual ones are going on in Tennessee this year, and then after that it's back into the team. And I just wanted a bit of an adventure, to be fair. That's why I've entered. Like I went over and done the fell race, the 3 Peaks fell race in Yorkshire. Again, it was a race that Si had done and finished like 7th at 18 years of age, and everybody was like, "Who's this kid here?" Like running up with all these professional runners. So it was on me and his brother did. So I was over and done that, and then obviously bounced straight into the Northern Iron 100 then after that. And like Keith's coached me for the two of them. And I love the style of coaching, and he even says himself, because he's putting into like workouts into me, right? This is what we're doing this weekend. Like it might be you're doing a marathon, you have 4-hour break and you're into another marathon, and then a 4-hour break and into another marathon. Like obviously these are set things, and I'm like, oh, that sounds great. I wait to break it to the wife type thing. And but again, like it doesn't actually go exactly perfect with how he uses it. So there's a bit of to and fro, and I can see normally I would get one done in the morning, I go back out in the evening, and then up early again in the morning to try and squeeze it in. So maybe not the 4 hours in between, but I do the best of what I can to get as much in as I can out of what he's given.
What does it feel like? Like I was sweating yesterday going to do an interval session for 30 minutes, just knowing like, oh, this is going to be hard. What does it feel like to wake up and know you have to run 3 fucking marathons in a day?
I've never run a marathon before. It wasn't too bad.
What does that feel like to go, oh, geez, me long run tomorrow? Yeah, what is it? 3 marathons in the space of 36 hours.
I know it's what he does, and look how great of a runner he is. So I'm like, if I want to try and creep up closer to that level of what he's doing, I need to be putting in the work, and that's the way I am. Like, and I remember, so obviously we were on training peaks and stuff, and like seeing that thing's not green, I'd be raging. And I can believe it, because I missed a few. There was a wee bits going on, like my wife's granny passed away and that, and I missed a few, and then I finally got in touch. And even out of that, he still says like I was one of the most consistent. And I'm like, I don't understand how people can pay a coach and then not be consistent. You just want to feed off them, to be fair.
Sammy, running 3 marathons, I'm gonna get into Eric's excuse because he threw a slight dig at me with the 16-hour stuff there. 92 kilo and doing 3 marathons over a weekend. How is that on the body, and how are you combining? Because I've seen you do gym work, and you're not exactly lifting light in the out deadlifts in the gym. Like, how are you balancing that with the amount of running you're doing and keeping yourself fit?
So
I dig at me. You just said I'm an animal like Sammy.
You're a big lad that's running feck all. You're around 30 minutes. You just
said I'm an animal like Sammy. Thanks,
you're not deadlifting like Sammy.
You're
not running like Sammy. You're not deadlifting like Sammy, but you're heavier than Sammy.
Sammy, you're about to describe how great we are. Continue.
But As far as it comes to the strength, I think the fact that we are that wee bit heavier, like the strength's nearly more important to us than it is be for
We're
some
animals.
No, don't use we with you in there. Don't use we with.
So I would normally have whatever he kind of gave in on the week, and then if it was a big week like that there and I knew it was coming, like I got it on a Monday and I knew exactly what was coming for that week. We'd adjust whatever early, and then I would know, and then I built the training out of that, so I would be a lot later in the gym and probably go a wee bit more of more so stuff just addressing to see if there's any issues. So like they'd be turning into body weight split squats and stuff like that. But on the later weeks, then that's my chance then to go heavy, and it's outside whenever you're a wee bit further away from the race. I would try and keep then all my strength sessions in to keep that wee bit of muscle on. And then as it builds, I slowly drop them off, and then eventually it turns into just kind of looking after it and addressing any issues.
Can I ask about nutrition then? Because obviously maintaining the physique, like we would know, Sammy, you know, Sean wouldn't have a clue. Maintaining that, how do you manage then the levels and intake of food? Obviously protein, because if you're trying to keep muscle on, obviously Keith's a lot lighter. You've got a lot more muscle mass. How do you find the eating around this level of training, as well as trying to obviously maintain some muscle mass? There's some going to be lost, that's a given, but how do you try and maintain and balance it?
To just eat whatever. No, so a full chicken. So like, see if I ever be in a shop, we have these things up here, it's yellow stickers where it's reduced, and I see chicken like that. I buy it. It's in the air fryer. It's cooked, and then it's just ripped into a pot. And then like, I just a bit of that, a bit of barbecue sauce or whatever, and eat off that way. Like protein wise, I have no problem eating meat, like steaks, whatever. But to be fair, like we are quite like traditional. It's all meat, spuds, and veg. Like most of our dinners are. Maybe like you'd have the odd one, like a Thursday night's quite busy with us with football, and that would be our handy dinner, so to speak. But the rest of the time, we're eating rice, we're eating pasta, and again like spud dinners and stuff like that. They're all with meat, and then outside of that, like I buy the beef isolate protein, where it's just like squash, and it just allows you to top it up every. As you keep going, but I have no problem eating. And normally, like especially whenever you're on them big weeks, I can maybe be sitting at 10 o'clock and we're just getting ready to go to bed. And I'm like, oh, did you order a wee pizza? Because I maybe know a big day's coming the next day.
Might start these backyards myself, Sean.
Man, it's Seffi, I'm telling you. I've been telling you for years you start doing backyards. You said you're too big. Your excuse is gone. Sammy, no man alone. What are we talking about here?
So this is something I've just started recently, because obviously I've come out the back end of what I was doing, and there's a few of the lads that I would run with, and we go out over the mountains and stuff, but I know that doesn't really appeal to people, and they see especially like, oh, you're out and you're doing this for Ireland, and they don't really want to go. And I was just like, what can I do within my community to help battle mental health? Like I'm no way mental health specialist, I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, but I set up a No Man Alone, which is just a free outdoor workout. So again, get the lads out in nature, a bit of crack, it doesn't matter whether it's raining, sunshine, and we just an hour's workout, a bit of chit chat, and then we're in a WhatsApp group with a wee bit of support, and that is basically all it is. And it's just something that I can do. And like my son, the runner, he comes along with me, helps me set up, joins in, and he's part of that. So he sees it, and it's just building again. Like you lose that kind of brotherhood type thing, and it's just trying to build something like that within our area. Because recently, like we're quite a small town, but the amount of suicides has been shocking over the last like 3 or 4 years, and it's just something I can do. There's loads of women's groups and stuff like that there going. So I just thought, right, what can I do? Originally, like I'm trying to get moved out to the country. I wanted to get like a bit of a shed and have a gym for to hold it. But I was like, no, you know what? I can do something now outside, a bit of space, and away I go. And so it started. And now, like, about a month ago, I came launched. There was like 30 people within the WhatsApp group, and they're averaging 10, 15 people out for a workout every weekend on a Sunday morning.
It's something about going through a workout and pushing each other hard that kind of I find as a way of opening conversation and stuff afterwards rather than going in cold. Before it used to be though 3-4 pints down the pub and then the conversation go anywhere. It mightn't be what you are going to open up on, but how even with that how hard it is. I remember I was watching recently a Bill Burr stand up, and he's like, guys have two emotions. It's either grand or angry. We're usually angry all the time, angry, 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 and then we're grand. He doesn't say grand, he says a different term for it. And then if you keep asking him, is he all right? He's all right. He goes back to being angry again. So they're the only two emotions guys are allowed, whereas girls are allowed to
Exactly.
have all these different emotions and stuff, and they talk about it, get off the chest, and that's it. Whereas we bottle it in. And even saying that, I do feel sometimes like, yeah, but you're privileged being a guy, whereas we've talked in podcasts before about I could run and headphones on and I'm not gonna get catcalled and stuff like that, whereas women suffer through that. But guys do as well, and we kind of bottle in and don't talk about that. And even I have to say that stuff out loud. I feel conflicted there. How hard is it to you've been through that, you picked up the phone. That's not an easy thing to do.
That is the hardest thing to do, I think. And like I kind of keep it so it's like it's a wee bit more. It's not so formal within that kind of thing of opening up, but it's definitely a safe space to do it. And like I think if you build that wee bit of thing and people get to know you, and like I am open about mine because I think there's a massive stigma, like as you say, about the whole thing of like you got to be hard, you got to look. It looks as a sign of weakness, this, that, and the on. But like if you imagine, like I know for me coming, like I have nothing to prove really, and that's why I'm thinking, right? Well, I don't care what people think of me. I've done this, so if they
Mm.
think I'm weak for opening up, that's up to them. Whereas I think that is still in people's head, where it's like, no, I don't really want to say anything because what's people going to think of me? Well, like I'm at the point now where it's like I don't care what people think of me, and I'm going to talk about it because it's going to take people talking about it then for other people to open up. And I do things, I've been on a podcast before, and after I'd done it, then I was getting loads of messages from lads that maybe were in the army and got out of the army saying how they felt and they struggled the same thing. And they're like, look, here's the number I use, and you're fit to signpost in that way until like what you use. So like just having people talk to, sometimes you're the first person, then they come forward to you and say, you know what, I was exactly the same as you. So being opening up that and then being fit to say, look, I used this therapist, he was really good for me. I think you should give him a call because there's definitely things there that you need to sort out.
It is something about us men as well. It's having a purpose and then feeling like you don't have a purpose. I think Sean says we've two feelings, but we're actually very simple, and I think when you don't have a purpose, you can feel very lost very quickly. And then you see other people, especially with social media now, everyone with apparent purposes online, and you're like, oh well, I'm up to nothing now myself, and that's an element people comparison is always the thief of joy, and I think with blokes it multiplies. Well, I would probably say as you get into your late 20s and into your 30s until you reach this peak where you come out the other side like you have and gone, I actually don't care. I'm actually in a good space about who I am, and I'm like, I don't care what people think. I'll talk about it. I'll do whatever. And that's why groups like this, like ladies, are fantastic about doing it because they'll get together for a coffee. They'll go to yoga. They'll do anything. They'll chat to each other at the school. Like they find outlets. They're excellent at finding ways to meet up and to do things. Whereas guys, it's either grand or angry, and it's we're not as good, and that's probably where sport probably keeps a lot of us happier, I suppose, because you meet people on a regular, you feel that sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, stuff you felt in the army, stuff I felt. This is where we think the idea of the smaller group of just guys getting together and having that shared purpose just for a workout for an hour a week or whatever it is to give some belonging. What way do you see this going in the future for you? Is it just to keep people local? Are you hoping to do more events with this, or hoping to get it bigger? Or for you, are you just happy to just be in your community, help people and hopefully those listening are looking for outlets and trying to find that element for themselves?
So as I said before, it was just about at the minute just getting it started and getting it up off the ground and just seeing kind of what change I have. It's definitely something I would like to drive forward. And I know like there's a women's group and they've been given a whole load of money now for the next 5 years to be fit to do things for the community and or whatever. And I would like to be fit to do something like that there for mental health. Like I have friends that have left the army now, that have now become psychologists, which are like they have been through the wars, like literally, and now they're on this other end, and to be fit to maybe have them come over and have a chat with them and do it that way. It's definitely something that I'm going to be like keep trying to roll and bring it forward. And the more people that talks, the better. And I think it's something that we don't do enough. Like as Sean said earlier, like men go to the pub and then I say you don't know what's being talked about after that. They're normally goes down the gutter and I'm like my friends. So it's just having that thing of being, like as you say, a bit of a community. But like I was at a local business yesterday again, just done a bit of a talk on it and like my experiences, my story, how I got over it, and like it come across really well. And again, like the money I got of it, I've put into the No Man Alone. So like there's a pool of money sitting there ready to support people that maybe come on. Because I think that was my main thing for doing it, was to make sure it is absolutely free. Because I know at the time whenever I was struggling the most, it was a financial thing, was quite a bit of it. And like you have all the gyms and the PTs, but it's a financial cost then to go and be a part of that. Where this is free, so it's open to everybody, all walks of life can come. All you have to have is a phone with a WhatsApp and be fit to get to a certain place. And that's exactly. And the reason why it's on a Sunday morning is almost to keep the men out of the pub as well. Like the last time I actually got drunk, I had the odd drink, but the last time I actually got drunk to the point where I wasn't in control was after my friend had died, his memorial, so like his funeral over in Wales. And I come away from that there with I'm sure everybody, the pure fear. And I had that for about a week and a half, and I was like, I am done with drink. And I would say it was maybe 8 months after before I actually was like, oh, you know what? It was my brother's wedding then. I was like, oh, well, I'll have a drink, like obviously celebrate as well. But no more than 2 pints for me, just so I can stay in control and I don't have that brain fog. And that's part of the reason then for the 7 o'clock. I think if you're feeling bad, the drink just adds fuel to the fire, and it 100% did for me. Like I know whenever I was going through my worst, I maybe 1 or 2 here on a Tuesday night, and then 1 or 2 on a Wednesday night. I think it soon adds up. And again, you're drinking to numb the pain, but once you drink with it, you feel worse because now you got a sore head, and now all these thoughts are trying to go through it as well. So, that's where the 7 o'clock in the morning comes from on a Sunday.
Yeah, 7 in the morning, man. I'm not having any points on a Saturday night. I'm in bed at 10:30 at the and even that, I'm like, I don't have enough sleep to be ready for a 7 a.m. session. At the very near the start of this podcast, you talked about you said PTSD. I could be misquoting you here. You said something about not being ever through it. Is it something you constantly then because that sounds scary. Like what does the average person not get from it that we look at like a Rambo movie? Not the first one, but the later ones that we don't get about PTSD and that constant going through mental health. What is the misconceptions that people have about it?
I think, well, I know even whenever I was I thought, oh, I'll get help and I'll be fit to come out the other side. But like obviously you're medicated and stuff like that there to begin with. But like I think that was the biggest wake up call was whenever the therapist actually told me, look, it's nothing. This is something that'll always be there because like it doesn't matter how great life can be going. Like a small trigger is enough. Then like a smell, a taste of something is enough then to set you off and just literally transports me straight back to Afghanistan. And like it's hard to describe that there to people. Like even a bang going off, whatever it is, to like a certain scenario, and like that will always be good. But you can you have the telltale signs of when it's coming, and then obviously you know what you can do to help come out of it. That's what you work on, obviously, do the therapy. But
and it's basically and to add to Sean's, it's not a quick fix. It's not, as you said, it's not go in to the nursery, come out happy, and it's something you learn to manage, I suppose, with help, with guidance, and then as you correctly pointed out as well, and your family have to learn that as well, which is probably a huge factor because it's dad's ready for everything, mom does everything. So it's, she can't do everything if she doesn't know. And that's probably the hardest bit for men as well, is to bring the family in as well.
It was probably harder to tell my wife kind of what was going on than it was to actually tell the therapist. But I kind of give her an insight just so she kind of understood what, like, maybe if she wakes up in the middle of the night and I'm not there because I'm running around the mountain, she knows why. But to be fair, I would send her a message, so if she does wake up, she would put to look at the phone. But like the better you get better. You kind of know, like if pressure start building outside, then I would start taking, and it is just taking time for yourself. Whereas like that was something I wasn't doing because I was like trying to build my business, trying to do this, trying to do that. And it was just like, say, jumping into a car and driving at 100 miles an hour. Like the car's going to go bang. Like your body's actually in. You're going to get jumping in and go at 100 miles an hour, no matter what it is. It's going to go bang if you don't like stop and give it a service and look after it. You know what I mean? And that's exactly like, it's kind of taking these hindsights or the things that I kind of learned in therapy and putting that in. And to be fair, like daily gratitude is probably one of the biggest things for me. Like I have it written down on a wee sticky note that sits in my van because I clean windows as well throughout the day whenever the kids are at school. And it literally has my three things like my family are fitting well, I have a roof over, I go home to a bed with a roof and we got food on the table. And like that is the only, like as I say, I don't care about anything else. That's the three things I care about. And my family are okay, they're provided for. Anything else outside of that there is just like, you know, it doesn't matter. And I just keep bringing myself back to that and trying to live in the present rather than trying to think, what's this going to look like in maybe 5 years' time? I'm just trying to stay in the present and live day to day.
Sammy, you do. Eric's touched on it a few times. He's really getting this mothers ready for anything off the ground there. You do.
I need to get the wife trained and get it launched.
Yeah, you have a perfect tag team there. I'm telling you, there's something there in there. That's gold.
I might have to deal with the kids then.
Tell her not to listen to this.
I'll wait till they're older.
What I was getting at, you do online coaching, though. You do online programming, don't you?
Yes.
They're ready for anything 365. For anyone listening that would love to get involved in a program like that, what does it involve?
So like that side of life, again, it's online coaching. I know myself, like having a family, etc. Like you can't sign up to a gym and be like, I'm going to go there 5 or 6 o'clock every morning because you don't know what the light's going to throw at you. And like that's really the way gyms sign things up. And like online works for me. Because then I can choose, yes, right, I've got this workout to do today, when best just to fit it in. If it doesn't fit in, I can move it to the next day. So you're not like trying to work and meet the times. So I set it up and basically I get them in and it is all too specific to them. So they come on, it depends on what they want, what their goal is, if it's fat loss or whatever. And you set them up a program and you hold them accountable. Accountability is probably the biggest thing there to help them get into that. And then I have other lads on that are kind of seeing the thing that I'm doing and wondering how they can keep a wee bit of size and do this ultra running stuff. And I would coach that as well. And it's all done remotely. Again, you just kind of learn as you go along. And the reason why I went remote with it, like I work in my cousin's gym and I have another wee gig where I take a business. Like all the gym stuff is morning and evening. And then my kids are at school all day. So if I was to go like full time in the gym, I would never see my kids. So I'm like, I do a couple of mornings and a couple of evenings a week. And then that gives me the rest of it. Then if I take the kids to football, take them to swimming. And that's exactly like why then I kind of went more so down the online thing, but still keep my hand in on the gym floor because obviously you're constantly learning. And I think a lot of people like go straight onto the online, whereas like, whenever you're on the gym floor, you can see like movements and how different people move in different ways, and it gives you a lot better picture then whenever you're getting form videos from people to actually help them and critique them that way.
Couldn't agree more. There's stuff you see in a book, like I just follow the book and it goes to a real life situation. You see that person there and you're going exactly the book's telling you like that. It doesn't translate, it doesn't compute, and there's different things like they're not technically pushing their knees out doing this, but if you give that cue, all of a sudden it fits exactly the way you wanted them to do it. It's just, I think people should be on the gym floor for a lot longer before they go on to the online world because you can't replace that gym floor experience for a while before you go onto online. And it's great you're doing it that way. And I must say you're one of the most active people I see on Instagram. I don't know how I was going through your post today. So many going through, and I was only at March. And like, my God, I thought it would have been August now for when I seen him doing the backyard ultras. Like the stuff you're doing there is absolutely phenomenal.
I maybe got that in the gym, or I've got it from a client, and I was like, right, I could literally be doing somebody checking, and they're asking that question. Somebody else is asking that question, or beats that we push, or whatever, and I just stick it on, and that's exactly the way I do it. Just there and then, like I don't. You get people like reschedule all the posts and that. Like I definitely don't have time for that, and it's something that I'm going to start to make time for. I think because that's how you end up attracting the people in as well. is like actually sitting down to make content to fit, because like a lot of it's there, but it's pictures. It's not really me talking, and obviously people need to get to know you as well before they actually buy into you.
You'll end up starting a podcast, Sammy. I don't know why anyone start a podcast, but it's you end up doing it for about 5 years. Then before you know it, it's absolutely
And
brilliant.
then you get guests in the podcast convinced to do a backyard ultra because there's a lot of food involved there. Isn't that right? I'm telling you, he's going to sign up for one when he comes back this time
Only
next
because he
year.
orders pizza at 10 o'clock at night. That's a man I want to live with. Sammy, I know you're a man who's trying to put in the present. You said the team element of Backyard Ultra is where you found your happiness, I suppose. As you look at this year, are you going to do a marathon? I know it sounds like just a Sunday morning.
Yeah,
but,
I'm looking to
would
do
it interest
Dublin.
you to do a marathon?
I'm looking to do Dublin.
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, I didn't get the tickets entered the lottery. I never got one, but I knew they always come up. I would have liked it, obviously, set, so I at least I get my name. But I ended up like having to take somebody that's last minute injury. I'll do it anyway. But the marathon interests me now because like, obviously Keith had me doing the things that I would normally do, like the sprint sessions, the hill sessions, and like I can see a massive difference within my running, and I would like to go and test that, like in obviously the marathon distance. So like I think the marathon compared to like the likes of the backyard ultra and the 100 meters that I do, it's two completely different types of running, and I would like to go back and give that a wee bit of a test and see what way the lungs hold up.
Well, Sammy, I hope to see you in Dublin for that one. I'll see you at the start line. I know for sure I won't see you at the finish because you'll be gone home and everything, and I'll still be running the thing. But the absolute best of luck with that, and hopefully I see you back on the backyard ultra circuit next year.
Yeah, so look, I'm hitting it in February again, and to give me enough time for the October if I qualify. That's the plan.
For Tennessee?
No, for October. So next
Oh,
year, the team championship, like that for me, I think, like for all the size of us, that team that we had, if we had got going, we could have done something special there. Whereas like we're in that wee medium team, I reckon we could have given a real good showing of ourselves and maybe squeezed into the top 10 there. I knew it was there, and like I felt that to have that taken away, I was like, I want that there, a wee bit of a just put Ireland on the map within that backyard ultra.
absolutely. Sammy, it's absolutely fantastic listening to the podcast, and best luck with those goals you have over the next 12 to 18 months. Absolutely brilliant. We will have Sammy's Instagram handle in the show notes to check him out. Check out his Ready for Anything 365 program. And that is it for this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. For myself, Sammy, and Eric, take care.